I guess you do it sometimes. We all get to do it sometimes. Everybody overthinks sometimes. Maybe you keep thinking about all the things that could go wrong when you give presentation next week. Or perhaps you have wasted countless hours trying to decide what to wear on your upcoming interview. But the thing, darling, is the longer you think about something, the less time and energy you have to take productive action. Plus, if you keep thinking about all the things that you could have done differently, second guessing your decisions, and continuously imagining worst case scenarios, that is super exhausting and counterproductive. I'm telling you all of this because I used to be a huge overthinker myself. I used to make my life more complicated than it was just by overthinking about certain things. You see, one of my ex-boyfriends kept telling me that he couldn't run his fingers through my hair. And you can see that I have curly hair. And that is not a good idea, to pull your fingers through it. Apparently, he was not a big fan of my hair. He generally liked blondes. And you can see that I'm far from being a blonde. I don't have bright eyes and straight hair. I was definitely not his favorite type. But I also wish that he was stronger and more open and talkative to me. And maybe he is open and talkative, but maybe he was just not opening up to me. And back then I really started questioning myself. I kept asking myself whether he would have liked me more if I had brighter eyes and straight hair, if he would have accepted me more if I was different. But the thing, darling, is if you try to change somebody, you're not falling in love with them. We're falling in love with their potential, and that kind of relationship never works. I've wasted so much time overthinking about that relationship, asking myself whether things would have been different, whether things would have worked out, if I have acted differently in certain situations, if I have said different things, if I was looking different. But the more time passes, the more I realize that we were simply not compatible. We cannot be compatible with everybody, and that is okay. If somebody doesn't like you enough or criticizes you, this doesn't diminish your value, darling. It just means that they're being attracted to different people, and that is completely fine. I really had a hard time letting go of that relationship, but leaving it, having that breakup, was a blessing in disguise for me. And I'm so grateful to this guy today because that was my wake-up call. I finally had to start learning how to love myself. I had to learn how to accept myself with all my flaws and imperfections. And now I know that I'm not worth less because of my brown eyes. I'm not worth less because of my curly hair. I'm worthy the way I am. And if somebody doesn't like me, they're free to go and find somebody else, somebody that they like more. And that is applicable for me too. If I wish somebody to behave in a certain way, if I wish somebody to look in a certain way, I know that we're simply not a match. And I'm not trying to force any relationship anymore. I'm not trying to change anybody. I just move on. Because I believe that the start of the end of any relationship is when you try to change somebody, darling, because you're not falling in love with them. You're falling in love with that dreamed version of them, your dream version of them. And that is not healthy. I learned that I should stop beating myself up for not fitting someone's perception of beautiful, because everybody has different understandings of what beauty is. You cannot please everybody, darling, and you don't have to. You really don't have to. I've spent too much time overthinking about that relationship, and I was living in my head. I was not being present, and that was not giving me anything. That was just taking away from me. Trust me, darling, you don't want to waste your time overthinking about all your failed relationships, reliving them, and asking yourself, what if it was just not meant to be accepted, and learn to move on? Because otherwise you're just hurting yourself. You're hurting yourself by hanging on to that situation, by hanging on to that relationship. And I was doing that. I didn't want to let that relationship go. I was hanging on to it. I was hanging on to it. But why? Why I was doing that? It was not giving me anything. It was just taking away from me. That was just hurting me. Darling, learn to accept and love yourself the way you are. Stop questioning your worth just because somebody doesn't like you. They don't define your worth. You do. Stop overthinking all of your failed relationships. They are done. They are in the past. What is gone is already gone. You cannot take it back and you don't have to try to fix it. And overthinking about something that you've already lost won't make things better. It would just make things worse for you. You need to allow yourself to let go. You need to allow yourself to move on and stop hanging on to lost relationships. You deserve something new. You deserve a new start. But you gotta allow yourself to make a start. Stop looking back and get here. Get right here and be present. Look around you. What's happening around you? What is in the past is in the past. Stop living there. The past is only stealing from you. It is not giving you anything. Why you're allowing it? Give yourself permission to live. Give yourself permission to have a better life. I also had some very turbulent times at work. I kept being assigned to very challenging projects. At least they were challenging to me. Maybe they were not so challenging to somebody else. But the thing is that I kept having the same type of thoughts. I kept telling myself that I always get difficult projects, projects with short, crazy deadlines, projects that I cannot handle. And I believe that this is what got me to the burnout point, because I was constantly in a negative mindset. I kept telling myself that I'm not lucky, that I always get difficult tasks. And whenever I was given a difficult task, I kept focusing on it. I kept thinking about it. Even when I couldn't find a solution, I kept overthinking about it, because I was hoping that I can find something that I missed in the beginning. But what that actually did was preventing me to find any solutions. What I learned with the years is that when you encounter a difficult problem and you spend some time thinking about it, but you cannot seem to solve it, you need to take yourself away from it. You need to give yourself some time and space. You simply need to distract yourself, darling. You can distract yourself by anything, by reading, by going for a walk, by just listening to music. You need to take your brain off that problem, because your brain usually finds better ways to work a solution out in the background when you're occupied with another task. Or you may just need to sleep on it, because your brain may find solutions for you while you are sleeping. Our brains are powerful and they're more creative than we get to think. We need to learn how to relax our brains, because when we are in a relaxed state, this is when the miracles happen. You know, some of the major breakthroughs happen in an aha moment. And I've noticed this myself. Whenever I had a difficult problem or situation to solve and I didn't find any solution, I had to switch off. You know, I got some of my best insights through shower thoughts. You heard that right, shower thoughts. I believe that when we are under the shower, we tend to switch off our brains, to take them off all the problems we may have, and then we allow our brains to work their magic in the background. Allow your brain to be creative, darling. Allow yourself to be creative by learning how to relax your mind. You know, the difference between problem solving, self-reflection, and overthinking is not in the amount spent in deep thought. Time spent developing creative solutions or learning from your behavior is productive. But time spent overthinking, whether it is 10 minutes or 10 hours, doesn't enhance your life. It just keeps you stuck. Focus on self-reflection and problem solving and forget about overthinking. I have a friend who is always anxious. She always worries about something. Whether it is her house move or buying new shoes, she always worries, from the biggest to the smallest thing. And whenever she figures out that thing that she was worrying about, she starts worrying about the next thing and the next thing. She lives in a constant stress. And I try to tell her that overthinking and constantly worrying about the future doesn't make you happy. I know that we as humans try to prepare for the future as much as we can, and this sometimes can be a protective reaction, but it doesn't make our lives easier. Stressing over every little thing is just hurting you, and it is stealing the joy out of life, because you're not allowing yourself to relax. Constant overthinking and imagining worst case scenarios is not healthy. It is actually a pure torture, This way you're hurting yourself. You're stealing the joy out of you. You're stealing the joy out of life because you're constantly stressed. And you're causing that stress because you keep overthinking. Your mind never stops. Your mind can create crazy stories in your head. It can create scenarios, bad scenarios that never happen. They stay in your head, but you keep thinking about them. You keep thinking about them. And somehow you bring that pressure to yourself. In most cases, darling, when you spend too much time overthinking, you are blocking yourself and you're stopping yourself from doing things that you can actually enjoy. You're preventing yourself from enjoying life, the life that is happening right now, the life that is happening right here, because you're so much in your head. Can't you stop for a minute? Can't you stop for a day? Can you stop for a week and a month? Overthinking about things that never happen? Why you keep thinking negative stuff? Why you keep worrying about every little thing? As if you haven't survived all the things you thought you couldn't. You've been through so much and you came out stronger. Why you think that you won't be able to do it this time? Thinking about worst case scenarios, thinking about potential failures only stops you. It only slows you down. Failures are always possible, but so is success. So why don't you start thinking about you being the winner in a certain situation? Why don't you start thinking of yourself as the lucky one? Maybe then things will start to change for you. And I'm telling you this because I've experienced it myself. I used to be an overthinker. I used to be such a negative person. And I was putting myself in negative situations just by thinking about them. I was sometimes creating these negative scenarios. I was manifesting them into my life because I kept spinning them into my head. And I had to stop. I had to break that negative cycle and allow myself to become the positive Vicky, to become that positive version of me. And you know, my life really started changing little by little, step by step. I'm now closer to being that better version of myself than ever before. I allowed myself to change my thinking. I allowed myself to get out of this negative overthinking cycle because it doesn't get you anywhere. It just keeps you stuck. We all obsess at times. It is part of being human. But you possess more power than you realize to rewire habitual thought patterns and foster inner peace. Allow yourself to be at peace. Allow yourself to live and stop overthinking because that is harming you, darling. Spending a healthy amount of time thinking about something is okay, but wasting time overthinking is not. Make a difference. Are you thinking about something or you're obsessing over it? And if you're obsessing over it, try to find a way to break that overthinking cycle. Try to find a way to get out of it. Usually that is by distracting yourself, quieting your mind, and taking action. Stop overthinking and take action, darling. Once you get that ball rolling, things will start unfolding for you. Once you take your mind off that problem, your brain will start creating solutions for you. Solutions that you didn't even think were possible. Turning away from the path of overthinking can lead to more balanced and fulfilling life. So the next time you find yourself stuck overthinking, take a step back, breathe, and remind yourself to live in the moment. Thank you for watching and spending some time with me today. I really hope that this video brought you some sort of value. If it did, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!